Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Proverbs chapter 6. We get to the end of the chapter, but also the bottom of the barrel. The Father has been giving us some serious warnings about many different subjects, like staccato, like a machine gun, bang, 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 but now it's going to be a bomb. Yeah, he's going to come back to a subject he's touched on before, and he will touch on again sexual sin. A subject that is presented throughout the Old Testament, spoken about, warned about, and into the New. And we have to ask ourselves, do we take this seriously though? Consider how rampant sexual sin is in the church. I honestly had to question myself, challenge myself, not just to study the text to make sense of it, but to make sure it really writes itself in my own heart. This is very serious, especially when you realize the consequences that he puts before us, what the Father puts before the Son. Now, remind ourselves, he had been giving great and strong encouragement to take the commandments, take the law, write on your heart, put it on your neck daily, throughout the day, in different moments. In a general sense, but in a specific sense, because of the seductress woman. And that's the point. Even though he's going to present an adulterous woman, a married woman wanting to have sex with other men, but the point is still someone who wants to seduce, who wants to bring you into her web of sexual depravity and destroy you with it. So he's going to warn us about this woman and really try to bring home the danger connected to her and falling into a trap. Without further ado, let's see this. Remember, he just warned us about her, and it says, do not desire her beauty in your heart. And do not let her capture you with the eyelashes, with her eyelashes. So we see the aspect of inner and outer, right? Desires, but then you have this capturing from the outside. You have the reality of your heart falling for her beauty, but this being something from the outside where she's trying to capture you. So it's not just about outward temptations. It's also about the inner desires for it, like James talks about. How sin is not something from the devil, it's something that first comes from within us. Temptation comes and puts that lure before us, and we bite to it because we want to. And that's what we can deal with. That's why he says, don't desire her beauty in your heart. If I just had a really nice looking woman, be careful about that. Be careful because for the price of a prostitute is only a loaf of bread, but a married woman hunts down a precious life. What? Don't forget, he's poetic and he's really trying to bring it home with a lot of imagery and images. Still, it is a known, difficult verse to translate and make sense of. The King James and some other translations go another way, actually. They say this: for by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. So a little change is, because of this prostitute, you're not so poor you'll be living on bread. And whereas still, this adulterous, seductress woman, she wants to hunt to take your very life. It still says that either way, the notion is there's the first level, this prostitute level, where it's all about a piece of bread. We'll get back to the bread. But then there's a greater level. Not that one is not bad, but there's a greater level. This woman whose purpose is not just to make money off you, she wants to take your precious life. We'll also get back to that. But now we come back to the bread though. What's the do with the bread? Again, he is a poetic writer, and we're going to see him pick up the bread and use it later on in more imagery. So I think that's the point. It's just preparing us for where he wants to take us by using these images that connect together. But like I said, this is all about how your life, preciousness of life, the life force, like he was telling us before in the other chapters, how wisdom will really give life to your soul. These things will be lost because of her. So now he's warned us. He wants to bring it home. And this is where he's going to, again, use this notion of lesser, prostitute, to greater. He's going to, again, use very earthly, normal type of thing, prostitutes, and something more spiritual, as we will see. And again, just to show us the consequences that come with it. So he continues and says, can a man carry fire next to his chest and his clothes not be burned? Or can one walk on hot coals and his feet not be scorched? So is he who goes into his neighbor's wife. None who touches her will go unpunished. You get this simple analogy here, right? You take a big stick of wood that's burning like a torch. Can you put that against your own chest and think, nothing's gonna happen here? So we walking, we put your bare feet on hot coals. And I know some do that, but not just a quick run through. Walk and keep your feet there. Do you think it's not gonna singe your feet a little bit? We say, no, that makes no sense. Of course it will. You can't play with fire without getting burned, right? That's the way we put it in modern language. Well, the same way this simple earthly logic cannot be transferred to this danger. You cannot go and touch her. Remember before, I was all about the inner desire that will lead to physical action. You can't do that without punishment. And we're going to see that punishment. But like I said, before he does, he's going to give us another example of a lesser sin and contrast it with a great consequence. He's kind of preparing us for what's going to come next when it comes to the true destructive power of the punishment of sexual sin. So first, like I said, a lesser example. Stealing. People do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy his appetite when he's hungry. But if he's caught, he will pay sevenfold. He will give all the goods of his house. First, simple analogy. Again, very earthly and normal. Somebody who's so hungry, hasn't eaten in weeks, and steals a piece of bread just to feed himself. We can understand that, right? We understand the need to eat. We get that. The lesser. And of course, you've understood that this is here that we're taking back that piece of bread, and he uses at this point. He's connecting the wires, right? From the lesser prostitute, who's worth a piece of bread, to this idea of just stealing a piece of bread simply to get fed. Yeah, don't miss, huh? But when he gets caught, though, even though we're gonna say, "Oh, I understand," now you have to pay. Sevenfold, technically the law was fivefold, whatever you stole. But probably the idea of seven is fully, completely, the full payment. Even it brings it to the point of losing his own house. Right? If he's poor enough and he has to steal to feed, he's probably had nothing other than his own little house. He might have to give that up just to pay back the bread he stole in his hunger. You see the seriousness, even though we say we understand, but there will still be consequences, though, according to the law of God. That's the case here in this simpler example. How bad do you think it's going to get? Right? Already your mind is twisting and turning and thinking of it. And that's when he says this. He who commits adultery lacks sense. He who does it destroys himself. He will get wounds and dishonor, and his disgrace will not be wiped away. Remember that preciousness of life from before? That life force that she wants to take from you? You gave it to her. Don't miss that. You destroyed yourself. Nowhere in the Bible is there a notion that it's not my fault. It's my sin nature. It's the devil. No, the Bible says you are still responsible because you willingly did this. You've not been warned. And if you still throw yourself in her arms, knowing exactly that it is fire you're playing with, you are destroying yourself. And I think that from destroying yourself, he's then going to explain what it looks like. You get wounds. The husband's probably going to beat you up. dishonor. People are going to know that's the guy who slept with this man's wife. Think of the Scarlet Letter. I don't know if you've ever heard this book, the story, or even the historical fact that back then the Puritans put a red A on women who were caught in adultery. So the world around could know she's an adulteress. Keep your husband away from her. This is going to be on this person though. That shame, he says, on top of that, this disgrace will never be wiped away. So we get back to the husband part. He takes you, he whips you in front of everybody. What dishonor, what wounds. But then you put on a certain piece of clothes that will show the wounds, and that can't be taken away. The disgrace will remain, and we could almost say in an eternal way. Just the same way, like when he was talking about playing with fire, it should bring images of hellfire, internal suffering. Even though it's not mentioned in the text, it's still hinted at throughout Proverbs. And here again, I think it's this disgrace that is almost eternal because of this sin you've committed. This is serious stuff. And it's all going to come, again, from the hand of the husband. And that's the note he ends on. 4, because jealousy makes a man furious, and he will not spare when he takes revenge. He will accept no compensation. He will refuse to owe you multiply gifts. Before, remember the thief, he could restore through giving a certain amount, 5-fold. So he can restore and make things clean slate. But he says here, this sin, there's no clean slate. There's no gift you can give. No compensation will be accepted. Because again, we'll come back to this jealous husband that will be furious. And this furious will have not spare, it's revenge. You see how one builds on top of the other? It's supposed to hit hard against the sun, being warned right now, which is us, son and daughters, about the real danger between being caught up in these things and the serious harm that will come. Now, he's giving the example of a husband who catches you and his wife, but we know nowadays it's more than that. Sexual sin is in different variations and forms, but the consequences are just as brutal, violent, and long-lasting even. We have seen recently so many men of God, or so-called men of God, depending what you think of who and what, but still from one denomination, one group to a whole other one, from more charismatic to more conservative, fall to these sins in different variations. The consequences are long-lasting. The impact is very brutal. Do we take that seriously? Does it strike us to the core? Because if it did, I think that sexual sin would be wiped out of the church. But it's not. So may the Lord bring this home to us, dear brothers and sisters. May it strike in our hearts. That is my prayer for this simple little message from our Heavenly Father. On this note, be blessed.